We have now reached the last video. I just want to make clear once again that everything up until now is my analysis. You're not entitled to adhere to it or to believe it, and I do not take responsibility for how you interpret or view this series. I have reached to a conclusion that God exists and that Shia Islam is the path for me to reach God. You can either agree or disagree and has the right to do either. I have come to this answer by both seeking it logically but also through confirmation with God, so that I know for certain that what I adhere to is true for me. Now, if it is the case that God exists and Shia Islam is a true path that God has sent, then it would be logical to state following. If someone could not search for this truth, God is all merciful and would give chances in the next life to come or judge oneself correctly and with justice about other things in life to determine if one will have a good afterlife or a less good afterlife, meaning one can definitely still enter paradise, but if one could search for this matter, and if it is crystal clear within oneself and within one's research that Shia Islam is the correct path and that God exists, but one neglects this or ignore it, only then is it not good. Wouldn't this be logical to state? Because imagine if you deeply know that it is wrong to steal or kill someone and you still do it. Obviously, there are consequences for these acts, meaning if you truly know within you that something is wrong and you still follow what is wrong, then you are deserving of going through consequences. So likewise, if we truly know within us that God exists and that Shia Islam is the correct path to adhere to, but one does not adhere to it, then it is logical that consequences will arise. Such is the case with everything around us. So one way out of some ways how we determine within us if we truly believe God exists or not and if Shia Islam is the path of God or not is through a signal evidence within that tells us it is true. So either we can then choose to adhere to that evidence within us or not. It is like you get a thought that something is true, that for instance within you a thought tells you Jesus cannot be God. He is a human but you still adhere to Jesus to being God or equal, then it has become evidence for you to choose that Jesus is not God. Likewise with God and Shia Islam, if there is a thought or an intuition telling you it is the truth and you ignore it, then it counts as something you consciously know about and can be judged for this. This can also be understood with an example of stealing. Before we do it, or this as an act in itself is exposed inside of us to be wrong, a signal or a feeling or our intuition tells us this. So either then we can choose to steal and get a consequence of not feeling good inside, or choose the opposite to act with what we know inside of us, that it is wrong to steal, so we do not do it and get a reward of feeling good. Likewise, if one gets such signal within oneself in the case of God and Shia Islam, then it is to be classified as someone who knows this to be true, a signal within that tells us if we do not adhere to it, we have made oppression to ourselves. Such will your inner system respond if you know something and do not adhere to it. Otherwise, if it is not clear in such way, then God is merciful and will test such people justly. Remember that this is one way out of some to determine if one knows something to be true or not. Besides, when it comes to knowing something, only oneself has the answer to if something is crystal clear within oneself or not, and one can really feel it inside. If I lie, I know within myself that I have made a lie. This is my inner system, this signal that tells me this, a clear evidence within. Such can I within myself ask if God exists or not, and if Shia Islam is the correct path to God or not, to wait for a response what the inner system tells me. But if one doesn't have knowledge and have not studied or reflected upon God and Shia Islam, then evidence will not be presented within until one's knowledge about it is sufficient. Now all the facts may not be here for one to choose what to adhere to. That is then for one to study for oneself everything described up until now through other means. But I have tried to mention the most essential matters. One is not only bound to my videos, it can be that throughout life one has been exposed to the information of God and Shia Islam in various forms to then make a decision. In total, if the existence of God and Shia Islam is the truth, and one has come across a source of information to believe this to be the case throughout one's life, then that would be the ultimate to go with. One thing I also want to mention is that if one does not adhere to anything and start studying the existence of God, and then for one to look into different paths, it takes much longer time to adhere to something than just watching videos. One must reflect much and ask questions within, but also to experience life to bind oneself with something. It is not bound upon anyone to believe in God or Shia Islam just by watching these videos. One must, as mentioned, reflect and also maybe turn to God or search for oneself. but one knows within what is sufficient. So if these videos were sufficient, then one does not need to search elsewhere. Only oneself can answer this. In the end, I'm not the one to judge who will go to heaven or a less favorable place. We all have different situations in life, even if one does not adhere to what I believe to be the truth, and even if it is evident within oneself what is a truth, still I would not be able to tell with complete certainty who will go to heaven or hell, and neither would anyone else. Even myself is to be judged by God and can either go to heaven or not. This is because I'm not God. I do not see the bigger picture, while God does. This is not my affair. Secondly, there are many factors to take into consideration to know whether someone is going to a heaven or not. And still, if I knew everything about you, this would still be the affair of God to decide and not mine. Now there is a beautiful narration from Imam Ali whose wisdom and principles have resonated through the ages, earning admiration from scholars, philosophers, and intellectuals worldwide. He states, "Your remedy is within you, but you do not sense it. Your sickness is from you, but you do not perceive it. You presume you're a small entity, but within you is enfolded the entire universe. You are indeed the evident book, by whose alphabet the hidden becomes manifest. Therefore you have no need to look beyond yourself. What you seek is within you, if only you reflect." Finally, I want to apologize for any mistakes and errors done in all videos up until now, but I have tried to make it as fair as possible. Now, many of the videos can have a biased approach, but you as the listener can decide to see it as either true or not. Hopefully, then justice can prevail. One thing I also want to apologize for is any disturbing background sound. Sometimes it is unavoidable. What has been presented from the beginning until the end, I believe, is something everyone should reflect upon sometimes in life as we move towards death. Wouldn't it be good to find oneself before this? Who are you? What do you believe in ultimately? Where are you heading and what is your purpose? Who do you want to become? These are all questions that needs to be answered for true happiness and peace, or what is your view? As a final words, I wish you all the best and happiness in life and for the next life to come if there is one. Take care and stay strong.